Hi everyone, it's me, Tomas, your host, with special guest Dillon Brandt.
Hi.
Hi, and we are going to recap the majors.
Yay.
I can't think of anyone better to recap the majors than the incomparable and flawless and ever-inspiring Dillon Brandt himself. Netflix star, champion, NCAA champion, and most importantly, one of my good friends. I love you so much.
I love you too.
So how are you?
I am doing great. I am very excited for this season, Miss Coed. I can't wait to put out performances of a lifetime. I think it's going to be great. This is one of the most difficult Coed routines in history. We also, we need to clean it up.
Yeah, Will. What have you been thinking of the cheerleading season so far?
I think that this score sheet is something that is much different than any that we've had. Your coach has to be smarter than the team being better.
Ooh, I love that. Why do you say that?
Because this score sheet is so different. You need to know it exactly to the point that you could do less things and score higher if you know exactly how to do it correctly. It is a lot different than in the past having, a team do so many elite elements and things and numbers of doubles kind of levels the playing field. The tumbling this year, I actually do believe, is technically harder.
It is.
But the stunting is easier.
Would you say it's easier, or would you say that it is going to be more challenging because the judges are looking for it to be technically perfect?
Not hard, easier, because you only have a certain amount of elites that you really need to do. So technically, it would be easier. If you're at that high caliber, technique should be good.
I think that it's going to be more challenging, and we're seeing on the score sheet that executing the stunts is not as easy for people. Of course, you're like a huge fan of cleanliness and being perfect, but I think for other teams, if I'm playing the devil's advocate, I'm sure it's a challenge because they're having to change their entire mindset to being technically perfect, which for a lot of the cheerleading industry is not how they have approached the season.
Absolutely. I would say large all girl normally is throwing a lot of harder stuff. It's not as crisp and clean. That's what comes into the coaching aspect as, hey, let's only do 4 elite elements and that's it, and just make it really clean, which is why Senior Elite was so successful this past week.
So we've been watching the season. Majors really is like the first big nationals competition, but it's the first competition of 2023 as well. Any standout teams from any of the divisions we saw at majors so far?
So I think Cheer Anarchy was actually really, really good. They really surprised me. I mean, technically they didn't really surprise me because I'm pretty sure Jimbo coaches that team and he's phenomenal. So it's just great to see small gyms starting to really be in that caliber, like more and more, having more people want to be a part of those gyms that are also in states that there isn't a lot of cheerleading, so that it grows in those states. Max All-Stars that's in Utah, like things like that. I think that's really phenomenal.
Max looks amazing, by the way, if you're listening. Max, they look so good. Before we dive in and really unpack everything, I have a question for you. How do you start to shift your gear? Like, okay, the cheerleading season is in full effect. It's 2023. It's nationals, NCAAs around the corner, Worlds is around the corner. How do you approach it?
I think it's interesting in my case because I'm from Texas, so it's already high intensity from the get-go. To me, it was always just normal that your first competition, you were already going to have to look very, very good. When I know it's a month away from competition, you really just start reminding your teammates and start pushing everyone to be like, we already have to be good from now on.
Majors is right after the holidays, so it's actually, I feel like a challenge to come. You don't have very much time. If you had like a 1 or 2 week break for the holidays, you come back and you have 1 or 2 weeks and you're back into majors. So it's kind of difficult. And I know you're a Stingray Orange fan.
Forever and always.
Forever and always.
Drop 25 stunts and I will still be OC for life.
I love that, as you should be.
So right in the opening, the timing is already great. There are a little bit of stick and stand problems, and the running tumbling was a little off. But I would say comparatively, they definitely have better tumbling timing and technique than some in the division.
I would love to see their height in the baskets all be the same, like one level, and I'd also love if all their kicks look the same as well, just a little more uniformed. But I agree, the opening looks absolutely beautiful.
Me too. And I really do love the entry position. I think that's really cool. Once I fool around, it's all so.
Yeah, this wasn't their day, was it? But the thing is like, we can say that, and I love that's not anything against Orange. I love them so much. This just may have not been their day.
It wasn't. I mean, I would say this season hasn't really been their season so far, and that happens. And sometimes people forget, well, when you are so successful, at some point, you're going to be not successful. I mean, it happens. And does it always happen? No, but you're not always going to be 100% all the time. You know, you're not always going to be the best of the best.
Yeah.
Can you? You can, but that doesn't mean you always will. And I don't think that there's a problem with them not looking good right now. I think it just means that maybe there's been some injuries, maybe there's been things that we don't see, that we don't understand, and that doesn't mean that life doesn't happen.
Also, it's January. A lot can happen from now until NCAA. I wouldn't be surprised if Orange hit perfectly at NCAA, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Orange hit perfectly at Worlds either. I think it's really silly to count any team in as the for sure winner, especially in large senior, at Worlds or NCAA until after finals.
This team, out of any team as well, has had a history of doing bad a whole season and doing really, really good at Worlds. I mean, we've seen it in small girl, seen it their first year of large all girl. They did not get the whole year and then did not
2014.
So if there was a team to do it, I think this team could do it. Even on an off year, at the end of the day, they're still the Stingray Orange. I would say their tumbling was pretty good. I think that the opening was strong. I felt like they were very confident in their opening.
Mm-hmm.
Roger's been doing this forever, so he knows, how to coach a team. So I'm sure he will know what to do when it comes time to look good for NCAA and World.
They're Stingray Orange. You can't ever count them out on anything. You can't count any of the large senior teams out. I think that they also had a really strong opening. I'm really proud of the athletes that you could tell did push. Maybe it wasn't a collective team, right? You could tell that some of the people, the pressure got to them or they started to make mistakes. But I'm really proud of the athletes that are visibly trying to keep the morale up and still pushing. And some people in the routine hit a personal perfect routine. So good for them for being able to do that on a not so great performance and a not so great day,
Absolutely.
That's really hard. So I want to give a shout out to those athletes that saw out of the corner of their eye, 2-3 stunts falling and still kept their chin up and smiled. And some of those girls still put on a really good show. So Dillon and I are very proud of you, whoever you are. OC for life, baby. Have you been following Shooting Stars?
Shooting Stars is definitely a fan favorite this year.
Yeah, they have a massive fandom.
The fan base of people wanting them to win.
Actually, little fun fact for America, for you guys listening, Dillon and I watched them together for the first. Do you remember we actually watched Shooting Stars like on FaceTime or something at the same time? I remember texting you, Dillon, you to watch this. So clean and so pretty. From their first performance, I was gobsmacked.
Oh, they're the definition of what large all girl tumbling should look like. I mean,
maybe lines.
When I tell you the stick and stands from them, I know that the other large all girls are getting scored lower in their tumbling execution because of them solely. Their execution is so far ahead, it's insane. Like those standing pools, they do not move. If you want to tumble like in your stick and stand, watch Shooting Stars this year. Very inspiring. Like if I need to get my life together, I just need to watch a Shooting Star video.
I appreciate in their tumbling, they have their feet together in the back handsprings. They have great blocks. They are pushing through their toes. The lines in their double fulls are always, you can tell everything's really extended. They understand how to stay in a hollow position. It's not like bent knees, bent legs, toes are pointed, just really easy to watch. It's really pretty. Not only do they land with their chest up, they literally land straight up and down. It's just technically sound tumbling. The little details you can tell are something that they understand.
They're very aggressive in their tumbling. To me, their stick and stand out a lot, for sure. I mean, the whip doubles are gorgeous.
They are far ahead. We're both not saying that they have, for anyone listening, this doesn't mean that they are textbook perfect. Everyone has room to improve. But comparatively to the rest of large senior, I would say they have the closest to textbook tumbling that you're going to see.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as stunting goes, that's actually been something they've been struggling a little bit more with this season. Looks like they've had some injuries. I know that their center flyer had an injury right around battle. They've had another stunt group down. So stunting has not been their strength this season by any means, but their stunting still looks really good.
Shooting Stars stunting has always been never not enough to be successful. I love the presentation that they bring in their stunting a lot. I like how it's like a performance.
Ooh, I love that word.
Because they do hit the score sheet very well and their skills are not insanely difficult, so it makes it even look better.
They're another team that has historically not had a great season in the past and then won Worlds. They're a team that we have seen multiple seasons where people have for sure counted them out and said there's no way they'll even be on the podium, and they've won Worlds those seasons. As far as stars go, I'm really excited. I have this feeling in my gut we're going to see a stars revival, if that's maybe the right word. I can't wait for NCA. I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that after the Cheer Analyst Top 10 World Cup routines, that maybe that like reinvigorates some of that old school shooting stars, like Broadway. Shooting stars used to go out there and that wasn't cheerleading. That was like a Broadway show, and then they just happened to do cheerleading elements. And I have a feeling that we're going to. That's what it was. It was like a Broadway show, and then they just did cheerleading. And I have a feeling that Shooting Stars, we're going to start to see them bring that energy back. That's more focused on entertainment, with cheerleading being secondary. And usually those are the years where they've done really, really well.
I love that.
I also think their baskets are so beautiful. I could watch them do kick doubles on loops. I think they're so pretty.
Their pyramid, just like their flipping elements, again, they're really good tumblers, so their flipping elements just so good.
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful.
No matter what flipping element they do, whether it's like a front full or a back flip, or even like transitional elements where a girl does like a back half over another prep and she's assisted by a girl on the side. Even just things like that are really pretty. Their lines are beautiful. They stay hollow. Their feet are together when they twist. Their legs are straight. They're really pretty to look at. Anything that Stars does that twists or flips is really pretty in 2023. Yeah. But when you look at NCAA titles, though, Panthers destroy it for large all girl. And like in one of the top 5 in just cheerleading history. Have you been following Panthers this season?
I absolutely believe that they were the team.
I feel like they came out of the gate this year, pedal to the metal.
Do love right in the opening that they do have those 2-man full-up switch-up. I think that is such a power statement to the rest of the all-girl division, because no one else is really doing that besides Orange. And I think because theirs is the first skill, I think it normally always does look pretty well, and it's very in your face and wow. I think one thing that for Orange, why it struggles sometimes, is because it's in the middle of the routine, so they are a little bit more tired. So I think that is one of the things that Panthers did decision wise make really good.
Getting the 2-man out of the way, number one, is going to just alleviate a lot of pressure. You're not thinking about having to do a 2-man in this middle of your routine. And then on top of that, the crowd goes crazy when large all-girl teams do two-mans. So to start your routine with something that you can hit and the crowd is crazy, that's just so smart. You're going to have so much energy to build off of. You know what I mean? Not only are you not worried, but the crowd's going crazy.
Absolutely. The tumbling is in the beginning of the routine. Typically that is a good thing. That's probably more of their weakness than stunting in terms of technique is something that they probably need to work on. Every team has their weaknesses, and that's theirs this year.
It looks like they got back from a winter break. Maybe they're just not as conditioned. It's really out of character for Panthers to have so much bent legs and crossed feet. It looks like they're just not at the skills. The tumbling skills aren't as conditioned.
Absolutely. In terms of their stunting, I really do like their stunt sequence as well, to be fair. Their technique in their stunting is very good. They either hit or they just drop. Their flyers look similar, and I really love their center flyer a lot. I think she's very mesmerizing to watch. I like her motions, I like her sass, and she's very flexible. They do a lot of elite elements right from the bat. I'm pretty sure they do a hand-in-hand to stretch, so that's an elite element. Then right after that, I believe they do a high-to-high full around tick, which is another one. Then a high-to-high stretch to stretch. And then they do a half-turning inversion. And then they also do
that full and a half up.
Elements, they're full and a half to the top. And then they do a full and a half almost in a body position. They're holding till a scale. So that's another one. And they have their full up switch up. So they're definitely good in terms of the hard elements. I mean, that's something they don't struggle with is the difficulty in stunting for sure. That's something I really cherish from them is hard cheerleading in terms of stunting. I love that. I love there's hard skills, and they're not sloppy either. Their hard skills are not sloppy. They hit or they fall. That's it. There's no struggling to keep things up. Really, I feel like it's either they have a good grip and it's going to be nice, or it drops. I think their pyramid is very, very Panthers pyramid. I mean, it's very like large all-girl Panthers pyramid. I mean, I feel like if you put their pyramid to other years they've had, it's basically the same pyramid, which works for them. I mean,
it does. Every large senior team has a thing. I would say the industry is looking at. You know what I mean? They all set the bar in their own way, and Panthers just aren't setting the bar in pyramids. But there's plenty of other things that they do, i.e. stunting, doing 11 full-up switch-ups in the beginning of their routine that none of them move. Do you know what I mean? There's so much that they do that is inspiring, and maybe pyramids is not the thing they do that is inspiring the industry.
The score sheet is more open-ended, so there's not too much of a rubric in terms of pyramid elements.
All you need to do is 4 level appropriate skills and 2 structures. They do plenty of level appropriate skills, plenty of structures in there. They utilize all of the athletes on the team as well. It's fast paced. It's not like it ever stops. It's just elements that we've seen before, which isn't bad. Like we're saying, nothing about it is bad. Pyramids are just not the thing that Panthers have ever done that have been where they.
And it still looks good. It's still like you said, it doesn't stop. It doesn't do anything bad. And I mean, and pyramids are sometimes hard to make different. I mean, when you go years and years of cheerleading, it's hard to come up with things. That's why I think TGLC is separated away from people, because they always come up with stuff. Senior League comes up with different stuff. And I do like Panthers' dance as well. So
okay, why do you like their dance?
I like their dance because I think it's a normal Panther dance. I feel like the motions make me think of Babs. I know it's a hard thing to explain because it's more of a feeling.
Which they do really well. They give you Babs. They're giving Babs this year, which I really appreciate. Because there's been other years where the Babs have come out a little bit later in the season, and it feels like this year, if you could kind of circle back to when we started recapping Panthers, they came out from day one looking like a Babs team.
Yeah.
From like Blue debut, like NCAA World's Babs, not like Cheer Athletics Panthers. They looked like Babs.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like that it keeps moving. I like that they have like high energy. I like that they have their sassiness and their dance. And I love that how they end too is very Babs like, something completely different, and sometimes it works for them, but I do like that Panthers is very, very Babs.
So moving on to Senior Elite.
I love how clean they are in all their sections. They don't put out the most difficult routine, but the reason why on this score sheet they're scoring higher is because, like we said, you only need to do a certain amount of elite elements, and it doesn't matter if they're two-man. It doesn't matter if they're all girl. It doesn't matter about any of that. So they hit those elements very well, and it doesn't move, and it's very in your face. And Senior Elite is always going to have a crowd. When you have that crowd factor, it does help. It does help. It helps a scoring. It does help a scoring because you're engaging a crowd very much, and when you're hitting things so hard, and you're a judge, you're a human judge, and you're scoring, and you hear people screaming, going crazy, It makes the presentation just so much more in your face. Hitting the score sheet that they need to, getting in and getting out, not doing more than they need to, not doing over the top, just what is needed for this score sheet.
But for the time being, girl, for majors, this was beautiful. This was so pretty. I can't, off the top of my head, and you know me, I can think of a lot off the top of my head when it comes to cheerleading. I can't think of a time that Senior Elite has looked this clean in every section. Like, they always have a clean section, and I don't mean that they are not clean every year. That's not what I'm trying to say. But they look so polished. Everything is so precise. It's executed so well, and I can't think of a year that Senior Elite has executed every section with this much refinement. Girl, Senior Elite was opening their uniforms on Christmas Eve. Or Christmas Day, you know what I mean? I don't know if they took a break, but nonetheless, they looked so good. Even from their standing full section, they also stick and stand those standing fulls.
Maybe timing actually in the standing full section was a little popcorny to me. Brooklyn Lily doing such a phenomenal job of her tumbling in the middle. Sometimes they don't see everything, yes, but she is a phenomenal athlete. So
listen, we haven't called out any athlete by name this entire time. Brooklyn Lily, if you're listening, that toe full 2-to-whip double is the prettiest thing. It's so beautiful. Everything she does, I want to call her out personally right now. Everything she does in Senior Elite's routine is so pretty, and she's also such a joy to watch. She looks like she's having a great time. She's so entertaining. I just love watching her the entire routine.
She is really great. She's really great.
Yeah.
And the whole team's great. I mean, this was beautiful cheerleading.
This was.
Maybe some running, tumbling, timing wasn't, perfect. Maybe there were, a lot of fools. I do believe that there were a decent amount of fool stuff.
There was, and their lines are pretty. Their legs are not bent and they're standing tumbling, but their feet are kind of apart in some of their back handsprings. But the stunt, for me, my favorite part is when after the high to high stretch, they transition in those prep level libs, and then they full around and they go right into the bow and arrows. And then the power press, when the front row power presses and they kick their leg forward and they all meet again in the scale.
It's a beautiful presentation. This team's presentation was phenomenal. And I knew the second that they hit this routine, they were going to be grand. And they did, and they deserve it. Regardless of what anyone says, they deserve it. I mean, the score sheet's a score sheet, and it doesn't matter if other teams are doing harder stuff or not. That's not what's required. So Stingray Elite did what needed to be done.
Moving on to their pyramid. Is this reinventing cheerleading? No. Is it really innovative? Yes. Did they do it really well? 110%. I love when they do the front flips on the outside and then the stunt groups transition under the prep. That's very Senior Elite, though. You know what I mean? To like someone like flips and then they go under a stunt and then some girl grabs another girl's ponytail and she does 5 twists and then she lands on her feet and then TikToks and then like, you know, very Senior Elite.
I love that they continue to have things move from in to out. These 2 flyers will go here and they'll actually become this group, and this group will come over here and they'll move again and change it again. I just like that they've always done that. That's the thing.
It's so dynamic and there's so many dimensions to their pyramids. It moves and then it like hits a structure, but then it's like a girl will do a flip, get caught by her feet, and then all of a sudden the brace group is doing a flip. Every single flyer is doing some kind of either flip or a release move or a twisting skill, but they're also bracing. It's very Senior Elite where a flyer all of a sudden becomes a base, and then you have a base that has to fly for like a transition. You know what I mean? I love that. It's so intricate. That's what they do, and that's what they are known for, is those very intricate pyramids. You ready for Steel?
Everything that they do is clean. Like, I love a team that is not sloppy. Their tumbling's clean, their stunting's clean, their motions are clean, their baskets are clean.
Their jumps are clean, their motions are clean. Like, they're starting to build a legacy as a team that is almost like a Spirit of Texas, where you expect them to be perfect.
Absolutely. That's very Stingrays, I would say. Stingrays.
Very Stingrays. But we're almost 10 years into Steel, and they definitely have the longevity of being a very clean team.
And what's impressive is that even though they do know that their score sheet, they technically only need to do however many elements, they do true co-ed stunting, and I love that. I love they do a good toss pull up. They do a good toss awesome. Even if one comes down early, those are not this wobbly toss awesomes. They are no move toss awesomes, and that is very impressive.
They give you collegiate, like very
collegiate cheerleading, and that's very rare to find, and I love that a lot. I think that that's something that is a statement for them. I think that they're not so entirely flashy because they give you collegiate, clean skills, hard skills, clean cheerleading, and I love that about them.
The collegiate presentation is flashy. It's so precise. It's so collegiate looking that that is the flash.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what sets them apart.
And they do a really good job as well of being collegiate, but they still look like an all-star team, and there still is flash. Their presentation is a lot different than the other large co-ed teams, and like you said, it's what sets them apart in the best way possible. With the exception to the mistakes they had, it's really hard to pick apart the routine and say parts that I would want to fix.
Props to their coaches. I mean, their coaches really, really are smart. I mean, their timing, great. Their technique and their tumbling is still great. They're very like shooting stars. I mean, it just looks so good. I mean, their stunting, timing, great. Basket timing is so good. I mean, their pyramid, it's just the mistakes.
Same height. Like the baskets are the same height. Baskets look the same. It really is just the mistakes. For me, if we're going to be really nitpicky, there's this transition where the boys cartwheel over each other.
Cartwheel.
And they like do it with they don't all look the same.
Like my whip double's good, but my cartwheel.
Yes, but that's what's so amazing.
Oh my gosh, I just saw that.
Yeah, and I hope people hear that, and that it's like that's how good they are. That I'm like, well, their legs were bent in their cartwheel. That's how good they are. That you have to look at some kind of cartwheel transition and be like, well, one person's toe is flex. So I don't know.
I hope that they hit like at NCA.
Yeah,
I love me a Stingray Steel hit.
Who doesn't?
Probably their competitors.
You know what? I don't know about you, but as a competitor, I always wanted everyone to hit, not because of the rainbows and sunshine, but because if I'm going to win, I want everyone to
Oh, you want to win?
want to win with a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's always, I mean, typically what people really should want is for all of you to hit, because at the end of the day, you want to know who truly is the best.
I just want to say that the emotion that Stingray Steel evokes in me for how precise and clean it is it's really hard to do at this. I've been around for a long time. I've seen a lot of cheerleading in my life. It's hard for me to watch cheerleading and to feel something, and it's so good. This is such good cheerleading.
I feel like you're watching it for the first time.
No, I literally have watched it like 500 times, and that's the point. I feel like I'm watching it for the first time. It's so good.
It is really good.
Okay, Cheer Athletics Cheetahs. I was really impressed with Cheetahs at Blue debut this year. I've obviously been following all of large senior and large co-ed, the whole industry, obviously. I have been very impressed with Cheer Athletics Cheetahs since their first performance this season.
I definitely think this is a good year for them for sure. Love that they have moments in their routine. That's something that I like. I love that everything's bigger in Texas part. I really like that part in their pyramid. I love that their pyramid is so intricate because it's different. It's something that's unique. They do different things. They don't just hit the score sheet and get out. And that is something that I like the most, is probably their pyramid out of all the things that they do. Standing full is very, very clean. Their baskets, they don't look like collegiate baskets, but they look like all-star baskets. I think it's because of the hitch kick. I think when Steel does just a straight kick and it's very long stall.
Yeah, Stingray Steel likes to stall.
It makes it very collegiate, but theirs is very like Carly Manning. Like, it's still really good, but it's not like a collegiate type of basket. It's like a really good all-star looking basket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's very Cheer Athletics when you think about it.
Yeah. Like, the hitch kicks look, they're all the same. They all look uniform. The timing is great. Their spin is great. They're tight. Their kick's great. Everything. It's just very different. It's crazy how different baskets can look.
Yes, it is.
I think that they obviously play it a little more safe. You know, they do toss targets and toss lids, which is much different than a toss full up and a toss awesome. But on the score sheet, it's the same. So in terms of coaching, props to the coaches, because that's a very smart move in terms of getting that score.
Said props to you, mama.
Yep. The 2-to-whip doubles from the girls, great. Absolutely great. Like that. I love that. I love how they do that.
They're
like
pretty...
old Cheetahs. I say old Cheetahs, but it's not that old. But
I know exactly
still,
what you mean.
I love that they do it like that. It's like a statement for them, and it looks really great.
It's very the Cheetahs brand.
I think that their stunting is still, again, very good. I think it's very different though from Steel. It's constantly moving in a sense. Like when they hit their arabesque, they go straight to like a lib, and so I think it's a different style of cheerleading, and it works for them. I mean, they do things different. They're very Cheetahs. I mean, when they do an inversion, they do a half inversion to the 2 feet and then pull their stretch. That's very Cheetahs to me. I think it works for them. I think the only thing with Cheetahs is the co-ed stunting used to really separate them from everyone else, and it actually revolutionized large co-ed to have true co-ed stunting.
Not only would they do toss awesomes, they would also do co-ed low to high TikToks. Do you remember that? Like that when teams were barely doing all girl low to high TikToks. Cheetahs
you're saying like old.
Yeah, and I'm saying that was a part of them revolutionizing co-ed stunting. And then from there they were doing co-ed full ups when teams were barely doing toss libs, like for a long time.
They were doing toss full up, and then they would also do toss hands full around, and then they would also do a toss awesome, and then they would also just throw in like a little toss target right before the stunt. I mean, they like half turning target. I mean, they definitely were the co-ed team. And
they were doing more co-ed stunting than Wildcats at one point.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is, you know, obviously you work with what you have. Coed sending might not be their
Yes.
strength this year, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, they're making it work. I mean, they still are successful. They did a great job with Cheetahs, and I think that their jumps look very, very good. I think that the girls tumbling they have a lot of it. I mean, they have a whole wall of girl round up by cancer doubles coming to the front that I love. I mean, they're very, it's like the most all-star looking large co-ed team in the division for sure. And it works.
The boys don't carry the team in tumbling. That's like the boys are amazing tumblers, but the boys aren't the only ones tumbling on Cheetahs.
The whole team can do it all, which is great. And same for their pyramid. I think their pyramid is very different. And
the scorpions falling over the preps is my favorite part.
I love it. And I think...
Can we just pause for a second and say, like, isn't it interesting how that's like... What level is that? 3 when you think about it? To have a scorpion fall over a prep like that? That's not like a level 6 skill by any means. And it's so impressive. Like, it's not always about every element having to be a front full. While that is required, yes. It's just interesting how sometimes doing that's not even level 6, and it's so impressive to look at. People need to remember sometimes the more visual things that are lower levels can completely change the aesthetic of your pyramid.
Absolutely, and that's what I love, and that's the blessing of this score sheet as well in terms of the pyramid. I mean, you only have to hit a certain amount of stuff, and then the rest is fluff and cute things that can be impressive to the eye. And I think that Cheetahs does a really good job, and I think they had a really, really good run. This is going to be nothing but a confidence boost for them for the rest of the season, for sure.
The boys in the pyramid. Can we talk about that for 1 second?
That I was talking about
the like double flip moment.
The part that everything's bigger in Texas.
The best part.
That's that part.
Why is it so good?
I love it.
It's literally just 2 groups, and it's so cool to look at.
I know. It would be so cool if they were able to have like 4 groups do it.
Maybe they will. Courtney Odell, if you're listening. Brad Habermel, if you're listening. John Davenport. I don't know if Aiden coaches Cheetahs. Derek for sure does. Derek does. Yeah. Let's add 2 more. Let's add a third for sure. We could add a third. I think we could add a third group. So let's do that.
Honestly, I think that they're good enough to do 4 easily.
I do too. Let's add 6. Let's have 6 groups do it.
Let's do 9. Okay.
You know what? Let's not have those boys.
36.
Let's not even have those boys in preps. Let's put those boys in shoulder stands.
Exactly.
And then get like 6 of those. So I was impressed until I realized that there's not 6. It was good until I realized you're not doing 6 of them.
But yes, Cheetahs definitely had a great run. Definitely a great weekend for them.
Well, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the season?
I'm looking forward to such hard-hitting routines that there are routines to watch for a lifetime. You always got to remember that as clean as you can be, as difficult as you can be, that's really what I'm excited to see for this year.
Okay, I love that. Well, I want to thank you for joining me and recapping large senior and large co-ed with the majors.
Of course, and thanks for having me, and I'm so
come back.
Do it.
Come back soon and see the Analyst studio again.
Oh, I will. I'll be back. I'll fly down again.
Thank God. I hope you loved it.